This is the Herd Line News.
Well, Sean Payton now has to prepare his Saints for 2 matchups this year with Tom Brady, and he says they need to be ready for Brady to elevate the Bucs in 2020.
I say this in all seriousness. There's only about 10 or 11 relevant teams. When someone like Tom comes there, it's not just the quarterback position. The thing as a coach in the division that concerns you is, just the standard's going to change. And I think that's a credit to the really, really, really special players.
He's absolutely right. I think that aside from all the storylines and fun and Gronk and, everything that Tom is bringing to the Buccaneers, I'm imagining that he's going to bring some of the structure that he has existed in for the last 20 years because that's what's made him comfortable. Obviously, he wants something new, but you can't help but bring your experiences to wherever you go. Like things that did work for you. You're obviously going to try and get away from the things that you didn't like and the things that made you uncomfortable. But that was a successful situation. If it was a disaster, then of course not. But it was the most successful situation. So he is going to bring some of that structure to Tampa Bay. I mean, part of that is what LeBron did when he left Miami and went back to Cleveland. He brought structure that Miami provided him. He brought a culture that was a winning culture to Cleveland and helped them win that championship in Cleveland. It's similar to what Tom Brady's going to do. He's going to bring, if nothing else, a level of responsibility and accountability to the Bucs that hasn't been there before.
Well, you think it would work, but when Michael Jordan came to the Wizards, you would think they'd fall in line, and they didn't. And when LeBron came to the young Lakers, you would think they would fall in line, but they got very petty when their names came out with rumors. You would think Buccaneer players young would just listen to Tom. You hope it works that way. But sometimes pro athletes are, if they go 0-2 to start the season and some guys aren't getting their touches, you would think Tom would walk in and everybody would kind of get in line because he is the winning player in that locker room. But it's funny about that, mouths to feed. They got a lot of good players. I've said this. I think one of the toughest jobs in the NFL this year is Baker Mayfield. Joy, they have 2 of everything. Like, he's got to constantly make sure everybody's happy. That's why I said I would trade OBJ and make it a run tight end team with 1 great receiver. It'll be funny when Tom goes there with all these weapons, 3 tight ends, 2 great receivers. It'll be interesting to make sure he can keep everybody, the harmony going, because it's not always easy, even for legends.
No, that's a very good point. Sometimes it's hard for people to fall in line. And Jameis was a very highly productive player, but they also experienced that high level of production right along with a high level of turnovers and losing. So it just depends on what the energy and what the attitude is of the rest of the team. And look, Tom Brady isn't what he used to be, obviously, but he is still Tom Brady. And it seems like some of the reaction, at least from, Chris Godwin, is that they're ready. Like, they want to hear what he has to say. They're ready to learn from him, and they think it's an advantage to have him there. So Adam Gase is going into his 2nd season with Sam Darnold and the Jets.
Yes.
Gase hopes this offseason Darnold can get an even firmer grasp of the offense and help take the team a big step forward.
Sam's trying to do the right thing as far as making sure that he knows this offense cold. He knows all the little details that he needs to do day in and day out. And, he's got to help get all these guys that are new caught up to speed as fast as possible. I mean, he's really kind of an extension of the coaching staff in that aspect because he has more experience in this office than most of the guys that are here. And he's going to have to do a good job of just making sure that he's on point.
So, this is really important, Joy. This is why we kept saying, don't fire Adam Gase. How valuable... Kevin Stefanski and Baker have no relationship. Gase is acknowledging, I've been here for over a year. Sam still doesn't have the offense down cold. So this idea that you just keep firing coaches, that's the answer in Cleveland. What a disadvantage it is to be Kevin Stefanski and Baker when Tomlin and Big Ben have worked together for over a decade and Lamar and John Harbaugh are on, year 3? That's a huge edge this year, and Stefanski may be great, and Baker still has talent. But Gase and Darnold, Gase is telling you, Sam's still trying to get the little nuances of the playbook. This stuff is hard.
And everyone picks it up at a different pace. Some people will rely more on their athleticism than they do on the X's and O's, and obviously at the quarterback position, that doesn't really work. But you're absolutely right. That turnover at that position is a disaster. I don't know how I really feel about Adam Gase as a head coach overall, but I'm glad for Sam Darnold that he's here and they didn't get rid of him. Can you imagine the teams that have a new head coach coming in right now and have a young quarterback?
Brutal.
It's
like
so hard.
That's the Giants, and I thought the Giants had a great weekend. I really did. I thought the Giants had a terrific offseason. But God, Joe Judge is you're going to be bailing water.
And look, I think for the most part, media and fans are going to keep that in mind, obviously. It's not like we're going to forget what we're all going through and that this doesn't also apply to their jobs and what they do. And, it's going to have them behind the curve. But, a year or two from now, we might not be considering that they had to deal with that at first. You know, it's a very impatient business. So, they're definitely going to be behind it. So, Darnold is lucky that Gase is still there.
Yeah.
So, finally, the latest episodes of The Last Dance showcased animosity between Michael Jordan's Bulls and the Bad Boys Pistons. And Magic Johnson thinks those physical battles helped Jordan become the best to ever play the game.
The Bulls kept trying to go through the Pistons, and Isaiah and them denied them 3 or 4 times. But it made the Bulls the championship team that they were, right? Physical, and they took a lot of cheap shots too. So I can understand why Michael was so upset. But the great thing is, I think the Pistons made Michael Jordan be the GOAT. That's the reason why he became the GOAT, is because he had to go through the Pistons, beat them.
There weren't a lot of positive things that came out about the Pistons this weekend in that, but I do think I have to agree with Magic. Him losing to the Pistons. It wasn't a thing that gave him motivation to be great. We knew he was great when he was in high school. Like we knew he was great when he was in college. We knew the potential that he had. But if you just walk straight to a championship without any kind of controversy or anything to overcome, do we look at you the same way? And Michael Jordan changed his body. He became the player that could dominate for all of those years because he was getting beat up by the Pistons. So whether you liked the style of play that the Pistons had, I don't know that I really hated it. It was the NBA at that time. And now obviously they took it to an extreme level. They took advantage of the rules, but the rules were the rules and refs weren't calling it, and that's what it was. And it's brutal to watch now because we're used to watching the game the way that it is now, which is a completely finesse game and totally different aesthetically. I mean, if a player gets a breeze, by his elbow, he's flailing on the ground.
Yeah.
It's a completely different environment. But Jordan was forced to change his body, to change the way that he played the game because he had to survive those battles with the Pistons.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, the league, hockey said no more clutching and grabbing. The NBA said no more hand checks. The NFL said no more touching wide receivers. I mean, why do wide receivers now, Joey, get so drafted and so wealthy? Because the league changed the rules. So some of this stuff, Michael Jordan had to adapt his body because the league was not adapting their rules. Like Michael today would not retire as early. Michael would just keep playing because the league wouldn't beat you up physically the way it does now.
No, it's not even close.
Yeah, it did then. It doesn't as much now. Good stuff, Joy, with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Rick Bucher, the NBA says, let's start practicing. And then a GM for Atlanta says, I'm not going to do that. And where does the league stand today? You check things all the time like your email or your ex's Instagram. But what about checking something as important as your credit? Discover makes it quick, easy, and best of all, free. Now offering FICA credit scores. The score used by 90% of top lenders, and they're doing it for free. Free for everybody, member or not. Go to discover.com/credit scorecard. It will not hurt your credit when you check each month. It will not. Discover.com/credit scorecard.